You know, it's funny. I was just having a memory as the time. Oh man, I want to say it was just before. No, just after I met my DM Rudy. But I wasn't hanging out with him. I was hanging out with an old friend and an older guy that I was doing stuff with. And I don't know, it's funny. I remember when I started smoking around 13. And I think for a long time I smoked like this. And then I kind of switched it over to this. And somebody, like, I swear, you know, maybe this is why I have a hard time releasing smoking. I have had a lot of people tell me there's something satisfying about watching me smoke. I almost feel like oh, I like, she used to be, I don't know if it was on YouTube. I think it might have been OnlyFans when it began or something, but she was called a bread face smasher. I don't know. It was weird. Like, she'd smush your face into bread, and people loved to watch it. Or like, I mean, I'm not gonna yuck on anyone else's yum, but it's not my kink, like feeder kink stuff. Like watching people eat. It's like, I mean, I definitely am not gonna go for getting paid for people to watch me smoke with that intention, but it's interesting to know. Anyways, I was kind of laughing because for the last couple of days, I have been thinking to do some videos like these. And I mean, the overall plan is that there is no plan, because that's a plan too, right? Well, so to speak, like that's usually Rudy's plan. That there is no plan. And right now I'm still kind of I feel like what Spirit has basically done is said like we've switched energies in sort of a Freaky Friday sort of energy, but he's back where I was when separation began. I suppose I'm back where he was too, but I'm more aware. I'm like conscious of what's going on. What Spirit said to like everybody was copying me, and it was my turn to copy him. Which, if I'm correct, then everybody else is now also copying him. Which is really, really funny. Especially once you get into that sort of energy work and you realize how real that is. In any case, for the last couple of days, I keep thinking about it, like, do I do love letters to Rudy? Do I do love letters to Cabbit? Like, I used to love, it was just a regular thing I did. It wasn't, I mean, the plan was there was no plan. Maybe it's my own energy. I just love to do romantic gestures, like, and I love to do romantic gestures for him. Like when we were together, it was 14 and a half years before them pirates got in between us. Like that's a good long time. Like even if that's all that happens again in the 3D, that's a damn good fucking record. Beat that. You know what I mean? But I used to love doing them for him. I've done romantic gestures for others, and either they're like, they don't know how to receive them, or they go the opposite way and then they get all entitled about them. And he's funny because he'll get, like, if I sometimes with my ADHD, like, I will do many in a row, right? And then other times they're like once a month, sometimes every other month. It really depended on what was going on and like, but I like to do them a lot, and like yes in the beginning, but I was always conscious of like because of my upbringing, I was conscious of like I don't want to be like a love bomber. I don't want to overdo it so much that it has no value or meaning when I do it. You know what I mean? Like I used to always like to practice too, like instead of just saying nice shirt or I love you, like my favorite was have I told you how wonderful you are lately? And he'd always smile. I love that. Anyways, before I dive into too many Cabot trails, the energy that's been coming to me is just I don't know, just get on and talk about him, but not for him, for me. Like, for one thing, because it's copying his energy. And I'm copying his energy right now because everybody's copying me, so now everybody's copying him, and I'm curious to see how that will continue to go. In any case, I don't know, it's funny because part of me was like, I argued with myself over, no, do I want to do a Wickedly Divine Feminine Lightwork Tour video? Because it's kind of an update to that stuff, but that feels more like almost like the on the road thing, you know? And then I went through my old mind, which was like, oh, if I do that, he might feel a little embarrassed, or people might think I'm weird because people oddly only take in pieces what I say a lot of times, and like either only the piece that really offends them, and then to the detriment of all the other context, or they only take in the little bits that make them feel good, which is fine, or they only take in the bits that make them feel bad or like I'm unaware of the entire circumstance and piracy and all that fun stuff. Anyways, I might at some point do a video about there's been this thing developing as I've been like allowing my feelings to flow on my Facebook where I don't know, I suppose who you might call karmics, I've been calling potatoes and pirates. And I mean, because a lot of times there are people in life who do act like pirates, you know? Like they pillage and plunder and they only really care about themselves. And then the potatoes are like followers. I mean, like when paired up with a pirate, they kind of seem like a pirate and they can be pretty intimidating because they feel like they need to be friends with the craziest, piratiest people in order to feel safe. And so, like, they'll try to defend the pirates, even if the pirates are totally treating them like shit and throwing them under the bus and stuff. So they could be a little, you got to be aware of them on that. But, like, on their own, they don't, I mean, they're followers. I don't know. I don't feel like they have to stay followers. I don't feel like pirates have to stay pirates. And then there's pickles. Pickles are the humans, effectively. Like, people that, you don't have to be fully healed or nothing, but like you don't live in the land of the broken. You know that you're a whole person. You can own your past, your present, your future. You can make light decisions and shadow decisions and look at it and go, you know what? Isn't this a beautiful fucking human experience that we have going on here? You know? And also the part for me too, like the thing that baffles me about people, like every person I've talked to in one shape, one form or another, has said, this is like the top advice from humanity about all the stuff going on. Choose what is best for me and my kids. But what's best for me and my kids is that their dad stays in their lives and alive. And then what's best for me is that he be single and independent like he said he was going to do and heal. And it's like, okay, so I'm taking everybody's advice, which is ironically also copying him because he listens to everybody else and not to his own heart and not to himself. Because the irony is he's a good person and he actually knows what to do. He is a pickle, but he's a pickle who's being a potato pretending to be a pirate. So there's that. Just go with it. I know it's a weird new language. It reminds me of when I was 15, like I would say 13 to 15. I had some friends that we, like, in order to be able to talk about anything we wanted to and stuff that we didn't want our parents to know about, we made up a new language, but it was with foods and things like that. And I think that's part of why this came in. And so it's just fun. It's just for fun. Like, use your own words or language in it. And if it annoys you, watch something else. I find that most people like it, though. I actually started a Facebook page called Jars of Crunchy Cucumber Pickles, which I think some of you probably saw on here that I posted. It was a start with my mom telling me how very offended she was going to be if they came into the house because they were from Dad's picnic pile in the garage, and she hates his retirees picnic because one day, 40 years ago, according to her, 25 years ago, according to him, he used 15 minutes of a dinner date that they had to call his fellow retirees for either the picnic or the Thanksgiving dinner or the Christmas dinner, one of those things. But she did not get that 15 minutes of attention, so now she's very offended about the pickles. And the funny thing is, that's a true story going on right now. Like, it's not, I'm being theatrical about it, but it's already theatrical on its own. I just prefer to tell it pleasantly because, it's a part of life and my parents are who they are, and I would rather alchemize it into fun than go into the land of victimhood of like, oh, you poor things. In any case. So, I had been going through my thoughts and it was like, in the past, I would not have done anything like this on my channel. I just wouldn't have because because pirates like to turn it into something that's not. Like, me thinking about my DM, me feeling love feelings for my DM, And me being a good friend to my DM, who's in a really shit situation where the pirates are effectively his family and the people that he's with, the karmic and all them, like they're all screwing each other over and him over, but they've all been blaming me and throwing me under the bus, you know? And like it was hang on. There's like someone weird parked next to me that apparently his headlight is up. Anyways, that's an interesting thing. For those of you that are watching this that enjoy my regular videos, I do like to acknowledge various weird synchronicities that happen. And so I suppose we will Cabbit Trail, which is what Rudy and I used to call it, because Cabbit is his nickname from me, and I'm the only one that can call him that, and he's always let me call him that, and I love that now. That's so great. Anyways, we used to call it Cabbit Trailing because I do it, although he does it far more. It's so funny. He's a very quiet person with everyone else, but get him alone with me, and he Cabbit trails. I like it. It's just funny, you know. But I like calling them Cabbit trails because they are. It's a cat rabbit trail. It's weird. So, first of all, if we look at like synchronicity, right? I'm actually sitting in a park where I sat about this time last time in the spiral cycle. Watch my other videos to know what the hell I'm talking about. And I remember being here, and I mean, it's funny. Like, if anybody wanted to say there was a time I was ever crazy, it would have been then. Like, this was just after he left, and I didn't know where he was. Like, he like he mostly ghosted. I'm gonna say like 90% ghosted. I had some emotions that I shared to him, and he did share one emoji back. It was a horse emoji because that is one of my main spirit animals, and it's funny. I was frustrated by it, but it was also the most perfect thing he could have sent in that moment, and it helped. Um, and then he reemerged with a dangerous person, and that was scary. It was very scary, and everybody that I talked to that knew the person also said scary things. And then I was also aware that most of these people talk a lot of shit about everybody, so it was kind of a weird place in my head. Is like, I mean, if everybody's saying it, you would think that it's more likely to be true. But if you know that everybody saying it are a bunch of pirates and potatoes, why do you trust everybody? You know what I mean? Which is funny too, because this recent adventure started because I told my DM I was going to copy him for up to the same length of time that he has been doing his thing, which is 21 months. Doesn't have to be that long, but it could be that long. I'm okay with that. Because I genuinely don't understand. Like, or I didn't. I understand a lot more now, actually, after the events. And if you watch the Wickedly Divine Lightwork tour, like, that starts it off and everything. And I do understand a lot more. And it's even like in these moments where it's like, I get it now. Like, if all the people that you surround yourself with are saying similar things, you want to believe them because you would think statistically, like heuristics in our brain goes, okay, it's not just one person. It's not just two people. It's not just six people. It's not just like 15 people. Like everybody's saying it. Shouldn't I consider what they're saying, right? And then the other side of you goes, but I know all of these people talk shit. And almost none of them will stand in a room with each other and say all this shit. So how much do I believe this shit? Which is exactly what my DM's been going through, which is so funny. And like to sit here and think about going, okay, like this is what a lot of other people don't sit here and look at as like it. I mean, I'm talking 20 years of time with my DM, right? This isn't a person that I just met. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of intimate time with him that I very much cherish and value, even along with his own potatoing and pickling, or I should say pirating, but pickling too. I don't know. The fun thing is he hates pickles. So it also fits in there because I didn't plan it out that way, but I just love it. Anyways, so when he left, I was trying to figure out how to do things different because I'm the one that told him that he needed to go find himself. He needed to go grow. He needed to have better boundaries with all the pirates and the pickles. And the funny thing was, they're really to this day, there still was never really a breakup moment. That's what kind of makes me laugh. Like, I've been teasing him by saying stuff online like I mean, we were common law married and we never got divorced. And a couple of my friends said legally that still applies too. So I've been teasing him, but only you could have multiple wives at one time and not apply to the bigamy laws because he's still emotionally married to his first wife who feels like she owns him. Like she put him in the position that he's in with the current person that he's in and confirmed it later on my Facebook when I started talking about it. So that was really funny. And then he's still common law married to me, and then the new one pushed him into eloping, and then bound me into their wedding. It's really, really crazy. It's really crazy. In any case, the uh, the funny thing is, like, when I was sitting in this space before, like, I could hardly think. I felt like, I suppose I felt like my soul was trying to escape out of different parts of like all like if you were being pulled your soul out of your body but your physical body was still sitting there. I don't know. I don't That doesn't even accurately describe it. That's just like the closest thing I can think to describe it. It was a big emotional pain, you know. We used to get teased by one of his friends because we always talked about like we haven't been apart that much apart from each other. Like we had one weekend within the first like 6 years, I think, and then I started going on a spiritual trip that was like a week every year, and that was really hard on him. It was like frustrating and adorable at the same time. There was one time that he got one of the kids was trying to tickle his face because he complained the year before that I didn't leave the kids with him. I left him with my parents, and that felt like he wasn't manly or didn't trust him. So then I left the kids with him the next year, and then our oldest tried to tickle his face and scratched the cornea on his eye, and then he had to wear a patch for a while. But it was great because he was patching the pirate because all of us loved SpongeBob. But it was an interesting situation. In any case, when I was sitting here, I was trying to figure out like I know all the stories of where we had been. You know what I mean? And like I knew that a lot of where we were was because he put a proposal to me up on Facebook, and then it was like the Jumanji style stampede of exes and toxic friends and family members, like everybody. And it was like, I don't know. I feel like it's like if it came in and picked my DM up, and it was like a mosh pit that carries you away, and I'm like going, shit, I I can't go with you because the children, we have children, like and at the time our youngest was just about to turn 7 when the fighting on that started, and then and our oldest was still, and he just was about to turn 14, like. And it's funny because it's not been that long. It's only and we're in the 22nd month of separation, but like, it's amazing the difference a few years can make, especially for your kids. And I don't know. This was the beginning of it though, and I mean, my family. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, and other times I'm like, okay, but that's pretty funny. I wouldn't have that funny story if they weren't so bizarre. you know. In any case, I needed out of the house. I knew I needed out of the house. I was trying desperately not to try to drive around and find him, because that's what felt natural. It's like, no, oh my Rudibug, where did you go? Like you were supposed to say no. I'm going to fix my challenges that I agree that I have brought into this, and I'm going to be good and honorable and do all these things, and I also knew that he wasn't in an emotionally mature enough place to do that sort of thing. And so I was trying to find myself in it, like that was part of the asking him to go. There was a big part of me that really put a lot of it on him, but I wasn't ever unaware that I needed to do my own work. Actually, when we did couples therapy, that was one of my biggest frustrations. Was most of the stuff he brought up was projections based on what the pirates and potatoes said to him, and based on their thinking that like all women always do the same thing and are the same way and have the same motivations, and all men have the same. Like they all do it. It's really weird, and none of them see it. I don't know. I've talked to most all of them, and all of them have either pretended to be my friends, or tried to get intel or give intel, or I guess see if I was trying to get intel. I never tried to get anything. Spirit specifically told me not to ask for any information. I thought that sounds right because that sounds like I'm trying to get to do something, right? But the irony is, I think it weirded them out more because they probably would have expected somebody in my position to want that. I don't know. It's been interesting to observe. So when I was here, like this was a point to where I didn't like I had not been talking to a whole heck of a lot of people, partly because I don't really I don't know. I'm weirdly like I'm an extroverted introvert. So I need a lot of me time to recharge, but I do like people. And then I don't like people. I'm also a Capricorn, so it also fits for all those definitions. In any case, the I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I remember spending a lot of time driving, like driving to old memory places, which is something that I did before we had an official relationship when he'd go back to his first wife and stuff like that because I was never a pursuer. I think that's what also made things weird. Like I mean he said to me one time too, like he'd invited me to one of his newer apartments. It was just before I got pregnant with our oldest son. And later, like years later, he told me he had assumed the night that he told me I could make myself comfortable and we had a good night. I think it was the night I got pregnant too. It's really funny that I was just going to stay. And I didn't understand that for the longest time. I was like, what? Why would I do that? You didn't ask me to move in. I didn't ask to move in. There was no negotiations or conversation about it. Like this is that a thing that happens? You know what I mean? Like, is that a thing that happens? Um, I mean, the only times that I've lived with other people, either they told me that I could, or asked me if I wanted to, or I asked if I could, or I invited them to come live with me. There's always been some sort of communication in there. I don't know. But you know, it's funny. I understand it now because that's very much the way most of the women, both in the family and that get brought in from outside, either the people from the outside either started out that way also and they attracted them in, or there were people like me that came from the outside and had different experiences and then decided to try to join in to get the affirmations of the collective. But I knew early on because I got bullied a lot in school and I was not like I wasn't unpopular, but I certainly wasn't a popular kid. And bullies liked me. I don't know why. Like I feel like it's the same thing going on now, but with like adult bullies, it's like I don't. I mean, I won't start a fight. I will finish a fight, but I won't start a fight. I typically try to avoid fighting, but I'm not like a run away from a fight sort of thing. It's just I don't. I think it's silly. Like, I mean, if you want to debate like higher philosophies, okay. Like, or if you have some actual like reasons, feedback, things that you'd like me to do or work on, cool. Like, I'm good with that. I don't even need to argue that. I think that's why they think that I trick people. They say I trick people all the time, and I'm like, I'm not sure how, but okay. So, anyways, this was back when there's like no communication. My family's being weird at home because they all missed him too, and they're used to the same codependent shit. So, oh my God, what's Amanda gonna do? And she has no partner, you know, nonsense like that. And trying to keep my head together. And I came to this park. And I remember thinking I could feel like I knew that my DM had been in some hotels in the area. I didn't know exactly where. And I just was like, I'm not going to go looking. I'm not going to go looking. I'm not going to go looking. So I didn't. There was only one time that I did. And it's because I had a really like deep, lucid dream nightmare thing about two entities that were feminine that were going to suck him dry of his energy. Go figure. That's only how things are happening right now. So I mean, my timing was a little off, but my heart meant well. Anyways, the rest of the time I was like, no, no, I have to change. I have to change the cycle. If nothing else, I have to change my cycle because if he can't get out of his cycle, I can't go down with him in his cycle. And if I do decide to get involved in said cycle again, I certainly have to be re-energized, renewed, and like restored and comfortable with holding space for myself. Like, and the irony is too, in even like like I have not been in any other relationships. I've been chased. I have been open to them though. I have tried to explore many different dynamics. I figured if nothing else, I got time. So it's not like I couldn't do something like that. But for one thing, none of them have been able to be like even a third as good as my DM was with me. And my DM had, I mean, my DM could keep up with me. That's one of the things that frustrated me about him. He had no problem keeping up with me when he wasn't wrapped up with pirates and potatoes. But once he got wrapped up with them and they needed him to pay all their bills and do all their shit and fix all their things, and oh my gosh, it's an emergency, I'm going to hurt myself if you don't help me kind of shit, then, then there was not. There was not that balance. And he wasn't able to keep up with me. And then they would play on that fear when he tried to talk about it, just to have a place to process things, that because of our age difference, that at some point I was going to get bored with him, or he wasn't going to be able to keep up and I'd make him leave, and then these became his anxieties. And it's funny because anytime he talked to me, it was fine. It was always like, like you're never. I delight in everything you do. Like that's a newer thing that I've said, but I've always said something like that. Like you never make me bored. You frustrate me sometimes. Like like sometimes really severely you frustrate me. Though you never bore me. Like I'm the type of person that I could not be in the relationship with somebody who bored me. So it's a valid fear in a way, but I think the age difference is irrelevant in terms of the boredom thing. Like I don't know. I just think that it is. On the other side of it too, he's like incredibly immature for his age. So he kind of comes down to meet me in the middle, where I'm incredibly mature for my age most of the time, 90% of the time. Anyways, I make room for my own immaturities. It's a healthy human emotion, or a human experience to have at any age, but don't do it too often. Then you can't get away with it when you do it. So when I sat here, it was when I decided, it was like a profound experience, because I was like, I think what I need to do is call back in my soul shards. And there were many, like, I don't know, when you left, it was like my intuition was like blown open, like, and so a lot of things came in. I didn't know what to think of was relevant or not relevant. I've been a pretty spiritual person for quite a long time. I wouldn't say since I was 12, but more intensely since I was like 24 ish. Yeah. And I'm 35 now, so it's been, it's been pretty good. So I feel like I was better equipped to have followed through with making him leave, which wasn't easy. He didn't want to go. It was not easy. And that's where, like, there's still parts of me that feel remorseful with how hard I hit him with words, because of what had happened. Like some boundaries had been violated, and his first wife had shown up at his and her daughter's 21st birthday party with someone she was cheating on her current husband with. Well, he's cheating on his current wife, and it turned into my DM crying at the table, because he was the same guy that she used to cheat on him with right after they got married, like literally openly torturing him. And my DM, of course, is the type to be like, no, they were always meant to be, and if nothing, I don't blame him. And I'm like, oh my God, honey. Like, no. And then on top of that, you're hurting your fucking kid again. Like, you are just as bad if you cannot have healthy boundaries with her, so that your daughter can have an example of how to have best boundaries you can with somebody that you are forever connected to like that. It doesn't need to be immature. It doesn't need to be loud, but he's got a lot of Aries placements and he's a Cancer. So, like, he decided he wanted to go gung ho and just cut it all off, but also to be ambiguous about it. And then I was like, oh man, I don't know that you'll be able to hold that. And then she's going to walk back in, because this is the pattern that you guys have had. And then you won't hold it because you went too hard for where you were ready. No, it's appropriate. Like, where you're going, total cut off is appropriate for this shit, but emotionally, you're not there. You should really bring it down a few steps. Anyways, I'm Cabbit trailing, so the trails go back and forth. This is what my DM does a lot, so it's kind of fun to be allowing myself to just be in that energy and not give a crap if anybody cares or not. So when I sat in this spot and I was thinking about all the things and all the stuff going on, and like how to get my head into, I didn't even know what game, but into a game of some kind. It was like, I need to focus on the kids. I need to get work together. I need to manifest my 100-acre woods, which is our 100-acre woods, our home with land and stuff that we were working on before the Jumanji Stampede. And I just was like, you know what? In most of the past of my life, I've been afraid to really do any real magic, because it's like, Well, for one thing, I consider myself a gray witch rather than like a white witch or a like dark magic witch. I don't like dark magic. I don't get into it. Though gray magic for me is like I'll do some things for myself too. Like that's all I'm saying. Like nothing that would violate anybody's free will, nothing that hurts or harms or takes from anybody else. That's why it's like I don't know. I mean, kind of a green witch too in terms of like I love herbs and things like that, but I never really like allowed myself to do it. I was always scared of it. And in that moment it was like, I mean, fuck it. What do I got to lose? So I said, okay, I'm going to allow myself to call back in my soul shards. I didn't really know where to start. I had done I'd done a bunch of shamanic courses. I have a lot of shamanic friends, both of the plastic shaman kind and the genuine article shaman kind, of various different cultures. Um, and so I just thought about it and I was like, you know what? I led my DM through something like this in order to heal his seasonal allergies one time, which is you go into your chakras. Now, I can't tell you why I felt like doing it this way, but I did. I got onto my Facebook and I started doing live videos of me calling in my soul shard, like going into my, closing my eyes, going into my chakra spaces and describing what I was seeing and like what the shards looked like and what was around and things like that. And it was weird because I mean, most people were actually like, wow, like this beautiful. I mean, like I went on and cried about a bunch of stuff too. I cried about our kids. I cried about us. I think I broke down about a box of tea that he brought me when I was sick one time. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did. And some moon water that I saved the year that our youngest was born. Like, it's so funny because I was so embarrassed with myself for a while. And now I'm just like, oh, I'm squishy. Like I never used to be able to allow myself to be emotional. It was like, no, weakness. Shh. You know? Now it's like, oh, I can be emotional too. So the fun thing is, when I did that for the first time, like the first one, the root chakra, it took a while. And when I was done and I was doing the Facebook Live video, I remember I got a call from the house from where my parents are and my kids and my aunt who was she recently passed, so she was alive there. And it was one of those like how do you put it? Okay, so the root chakra is connected to safety, home, mother, survival, things like that, right? And the call that I got was that my mom had picked a fight with my youngest again. She's very passive aggressive in that way. And when she either wants my attention or she's unhappy or bored or anything, that's what she liked to do. I don't like that it is that way. And I have talked to her about it many, 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 many times. And now she's in her mid 70s and that makes things more complicated and it's funny. I think I just put up a book that she got recently that I used to be really hurt by it when I was kids. There's lots of different books on this one. It's how your adult child breaks your heart, which includes because of saying things like you have to manage your own emotions, mom. Like, just because you are bored or you are unhappy about something going on with me does not mean it is okay to go and be passive aggressive with other people. But anytime, of course, you say anything about passive aggressive, she turns around and crosses her arms and looks away from you, which is like, do you not understand what passive aggressive means? Is there like a communication problem going on right now? Like the definition of things? Because then she'll go, I'm not. And it's like, but you are. Like, if I was to look up, the phrase passive aggressive in the encyclopedia, your picture would probably be there, Mom. That's pretty bad, you know? Not that I'm exempt from that. I have had plenty of passive aggressive moments in my life, and recently I've been allowing myself to be a little passive aggressive. I was looking at my own cycles of like journaling, and it's like, I think it's like every 2.5 to 5 years, I think I let myself be a little passive aggressive too. I'm trying to manifest new cycles with new community and chosen family where that is not a thing that I feel called to do at all because it's not that fun. And as much as I like the stories later after I've alchemized the energy and healed from it, like really, it's like so old. It's so old. Like, why? There are so many more infinite things we could be doing in the world than codependent relationships with family, friends, and lovers. There's so many things. In any case, when I got that call, it was like, okay, gotta rush back and figure this shit out. And it was the stupidest thing, too. Like, he had called me, or well, yeah, that's what it was. My youngest had called me and told me that grandma was doing stuff. And he'd asked if he could wait in the driveway for me to come pick him up. We could go for a drive. And I was like, okay, sure. And like, I got off the phone with him, like trying to dry my eyes and like, come out of meditative state and stuff. And I did. And I got there. And then like he was unhappy and I went and investigated. I had talked to everybody because you always have to talk to everybody because nobody would tell you the actual full authentic truth with a full accountability for their own parts. It doesn't work that way in Pirates World or Potatoes Worlds. And so I asked everybody, and the story that I got collectively between what people said and did not say, owned and did not own, was that Joey had called me first to say he wanted to go to the park. He was sitting quietly by himself and got up, and then my mom went in and took a toy of his and hid it where he couldn't find it because she was upset about one plate that he had sitting there for a day. This, mind you, this is the time he was, let's see, 10 times, so 8. He was 8 at the time. This is 22 months ago, give or take. And that he had then called me, and I'm the only person he needs to call. I would have normal rules like, tell your grandparents and stuff like that and ask them too, but they do this stuff, so I can't really give them any authority. It's not a great situation. Well, I've been trying to manifest out of it, and if people would stop trying to drain my energy, I could do that just fine. Anyways, apparently he had called me, which is the rule. I had told all of them it's fine to call me and ask me to do things. If I need to be there, I will be there. If I need to pick him up, I'll pick him up. It's fine. Otherwise, don't worry about it. But they like to micromanage everything. And he had gone out into the driveway. And the thing that got me is, one, we have a huge driveway. It's very open. There is nothing blocking or covering any of it. It's gravel. It was daytime. And I asked them, they said, well, he wouldn't he wouldn't come in when we told him to come in. He just kept saying you told him he could. And I said, yes, I did tell him he could. So what did he do wrong? Well, he was standing in the driveway. I said, yes, he called me and asked me if he could. What is wrong with that? Well, what if you ran into him? And that, like, I feel like anybody, when I tell that story to, or when I think about it, is like, really? Like, one, how blind would you have to be to do that in the middle of the day in a huge gravel driveway where there's nothing blocking anything? And he was right next to the house. We don't park on top of the house. So, like, none of that should be available. Also, what kind of weirdo would I have to be to come flying into the driveway like that? Like, I don't drive like that ever. And for one, and for two, it's not the kind of driveway you could do that with, really. At least not in my opinion. I suppose I know some daredevil people that could do it. But you see, like, that's the kind of crazy making that Pirates and Potatoes often get into. Like, there's these really fanciful, like, outrageous reasons why they do things. And the stupid thing is, it's usually not even that reason. I found out what the real reason was, and it was because my aunt was upset about something, and she had been overdoing things around the house, and my mom had been overdoing things around the house, and then was stressed about her, and they did this weird thing where they would always do all of the chores before anyone else could get to them. I would set chores for my kids to do and for me to do, but they would always go and do them just before we did them, and then complain that we never did anything, or that we didn't do it right. It was very complicated and unnecessarily complicated. And it was like, your real reason that you're upset with Joey is because you two were having some petty, stupid freaking argument that you want to throw me under the bus for it when y'all are setting up your own fucking situation. And then you want to be controlling with others. And so you go for the kids like you did with me when I was younger. And I have set it up so that my children know they only need to ask me and only need to listen to me, because when I grew up, I had disorganized attachment because you made me listen to everybody, which was confusing as fuck because nobody had the same fucking rules. And half the people said, you don't have to listen to mom or you don't have to listen to dad. No, I made it very fucking simple. And I arranged that by going through therapy and having them in some therapy and doing couples therapy with with my DM Rudy, their dad. So I knew that it was healthy. I knew that it was an okay arrangement. It wasn't the best thing in the world to be in that situation, but it also wasn't. There were worse situations. So I just don't want the battery to die. It's sitting in my dad's old van, and it does stuff. So in any case, that for me was one of those first moments, those first big moments too, that Spirit said, start journaling. And I remember I only had note cards. Like, I only had note cards. I usually did journal a fair amount. I started journaling a ton years ago, especially when fighting and stuff started, because I was like, this is ridiculous. And Potatoes and Pirates are really good at stuff like that. Like, my parents are a good example of that one, like, why would you say that he shouldn't stand in the driveway because, like, his own mother might do something like that? Like, that's really, really fucking ridiculous. But a lot of people do that. It's like, I don't know, it's ridiculousness. But it connected to me, like, the root chakra thing. I had called in the soul shards to my root chakra. And then stuff at home happened, and home in many metaphors of it, like with my mother, with the places of security, with me as a mother, challenging situations. And then the funny thing is, so I did the rest of the chakras. I came back each night and did more on Facebook, and just kept doing it. Like, there was no plan to it. It was just the only thing that felt like, if there was a smart thing to be doing, it would be that. And it also felt like it was, it would help me emotionally in some way, because I don't know. I know that Rudy sits around, or did at least, and is wondering. Like, he always said I seemed more moved on than him, and it didn't seem fair. And it's like, I mean, in some respects that's true, but look at what I chose to do versus what he chose to do. And I get it, because I feel bad, because he's like got the knight in shining armor syndrome and shit, and the people that he got wrapped up in, they fabricated damsel in distress moments, and then when he wanted out, it was a combination of, we'll hurt you, or you'll hurt us, or we'll hurt ourselves. And that's also what he went through with his sisters and his family and shit like that. And that's like, I knew it was definitely about his karma and his stuff to face. Not karma as in punishment, but like, even I had to learn it with him. You got to get to a point to where, no matter how much you love somebody, you're not willing to throw yourself on their swords. Like, and also to remember that you can't help them if you're not helping yourself first and foremost. You can't, if you give everything you have and you deplete yourself, you're no use to anybody. So even if they deserve it, even if you see all the best of the light in them, if they're sucking it away from you, or they're pulling it away, you got to be able to step back. And that's my favorite thing about both this journey and doing these vlogs. I'm just going to call them vlogs, because I remember, like, when I started doing my Facebook lives, part of what I did was, I was like, you know what, fuck that. This is my Facebook, and these are my feelings, and feelings don't hurt people. And so, like, I was like, I'm going to call him my partner. I'm going to keep calling him my partner. I'm going to do this because that's how I feel. I'm allowed to feel that way. It doesn't mean I'm going to do anything about it. It doesn't even mean it's unhealthy. I mean, heck, we hadn't even been a month, like, separated. But apparently, he told me after I'd continued this for couple of weeks, because I was going over memories. It was very healing, and a lot of my friends enjoyed it, and they found it healing. A lot of them started their own projects too, especially when quarantine got started. Like, they started their own groups and stuff, and I got to be a part of that. It was really weird and incredible and odd, and it's like, oh, my squishy tears and breakdowns are helping people. All right. Like, that's fine. Who could turn that down to a degree, especially when I needed to put it somewhere anyways. And what Dia was telling me, that the person that he was with, even though they were roommates at the time, but also together, but also not. It is typical playerly and cancerly fashion. It's adorable. Anyways, that she was highly, highly offended that I was doing Facebook live videos on my own Facebook, talking about my own memories and emotions, talking about us and the kids, and like, I mean, I wasn't even being disrespectful to her about anything. I didn't start being actually I never intentionally was disrespectful to her. That's the thing that gets me too. And I wasn't ever the one trying to sabotage things. I think the complete irony of all of it is like, it was easy for everybody to throw me under the bus because I was being honest that I still love him and he's my kid's dad. And like, I mean, I don't see what's so scary about that personally, but whatever. I'm not a pirate or a potato. I'm a pickle who can pretend. I can hang with the pirates because I've had to be around pirates more than I have taste for, but I'm not a pirate, so I don't really get it. But it is interesting to be back in this place where it's like, I've now decided I'm just going to share whatever memories I want and talk about my story the way that I experienced it. And if people don't like the role that they played in my stories, they should have not been pirates. And, not been cowards either. In any case, and I'm not throwing me under the bus. Like, what the fuck? Like, even the supposed good guys on the end of the Pirates and Potatoes threw me under the bus, too. Or were comfortable allowing me to be thrown under the bus. And it's like, what? And you think you're the good guys? Anyways. So, I am back in a place, though, where it's like, in that time in the beginning, it was like, why would I bow down on just sharing my own emotions in my own space, in my own time, in a in a healthy, safe way, to somebody that was openly trying to take my person before I even told him to go, before we separate. Like, she started in the summer. It started with the proposal thing. I'm still laughing that it was confirmed that his first wife set it up and likes it too. But in any case, like, why would I keep it, like, because normally I would be polite and go, okay, I should do this privately, but I felt called to do it on my Facebook for me, and I simply said, you know what, I'm not going to not do it simply because somebody who clearly gives no fucks about me or our kids or any of that shit, who is openly disrespecting me, why would I moderate my behavior to please somebody like that? It's that simple, right? And I checked in with plenty of people, too, about it. Like, is that a bad way to feel about it? And most of them were like, no, that's reasonable. I mean, a lot of people would be bitchy or worse, or they would talk a lot of shit. I didn't. And now here we are. And I'm back at the same park. I almost drove somewhere else, but I was like, I kind of like the nostalgia of it. Like, going on 22 months ago, I sat at this park, and I started with calling my soul shards back in for my root chakra as a process of working on me. When I told my DM to go find himself. It's funny, it's not go F yourself, it's not go fuck yourself, it's go find yourself. I was thinking to make that a shirt. I'm gonna have go find yourself, I love everything about you, and thank you for being born. Those will be my wickedly divine feminine t-shirts. So in any case, now we sit here and I'm at the park and I'm doing these videos. And I was thinking, like, as I'm driving, because Spirit's going, no, do the video. Like, do the video. And it's funny because sometimes I feel like one of my guides is him. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I know others talk about that. I'm always looking for a balance between healthy psychology, enjoyable spirituality, and presence in reality. So, who knows? But it does feel like his bratty energy of, like, do it for yourself. That's what he's always told me, too. That's the funny thing. It's his advice also. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm listening to everybody. Everybody's advice. Like, everybody's wise advice. From the wisest gurus to the people you should never take advice from. Everybody says, do what is best for me and my kids. And this is best for me and my kids. Because, one, I actually feel quite soothed just by thinking about my DM. Like, it doesn't have to, I don't need anything from him in the 3D. I enjoy thinking about him. It's pleasant enough. Like, and then on top of that, I enjoy the romance in it. Especially because it's funny, like, I went and told my story as I felt called to talk about it. And a lot of it was about calling out all of the pirates and potatoes on in my family, in his family, and from his exes, all of that stuff, and telling the truth. And being like, you know what? I can't control any of y'all, but you also can't control me. I'm going to tell the story the way I feel called to tell the story. And that was for me. But all of them assumed that it was a romantic gesture. And I knew that they would because they all kind of do that thing. I'm aware that my DM even like, it's like it wasn't intended as a romantic gesture at all, because I actually know that unlike them, he does not actually like the drama, but he does like a lady who will fight for him. And that would be the language of pirates and potatoes, is you go and create drama in order to do a romantic gesture. But I also know that the things that I did were not things that he would like. He would find it romantic because he knows I did the right thing. I helped right some wrongs, I helped correct some things, and it was the right and healthiest thing for me to do, and it protected our children, and it protected him from taking his life. So I know that he's not mad at me, but it did kick off a lot of shit with the pirates. It basically handed all of their stuff back to them. And I mean, it's kind of that same scenario of like, do I keep myself quiet to please people who not only openly disrespect me, but throw me under the bus or allow me to be thrown under the bus because they're not courageous enough to be able to at least own and say, yeah, I did that shit and I did it for this reason and that reason, or because or I did because I don't give a fuck about anybody else, or I don't care about children, or at least own your shit. Like, I've been owning every bit of it all the way, being 100% selfish because everybody's advice is do what is best for me and my kids. So I am. And that's where it's like that original decision is like, am I going to not talk about all these nasty secrets and shadows and shit that I don't need to be holding on to, quite frankly? And I have nobody on my end, one, that's going to be offended by my participation in this stuff in that way. And also, if they're going to try to take out my DM and allow his life to fade away, that's my children's father. What reason do I have to hold on to their nasty secrets 1 second fucking longer? And then half of them be literally openly, publicly confess to betraying my 16-year-old too. So like, why am I keeping your secrets? Why? If it's healing for me, if it's what's best for me, if it protects my children and protects my DM and wakes him up, I'm not going to not do it simply because it might come across as disrespectful to any of the pirates that have no fucks to give when they're doing that to other people. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a similar, this is what I mean about up levels. Like, we'll hit certain patterns of energy and choices will come to us, and we either up level that decision, either we get lighter with it, or we go into the shadow and explore more of it, or we release it and start something new. There's various different things. The other thing too is, in doing this, it's funny because it's walking us out of the cycle. So like, the things that I've done have changed the cycle. And the funny thing is, I even had an argument with my dad earlier before I left, so it's definitely backwards, forwards. And so when I came, it's funny, Cabbit trailing. See, this is why we called it Cabbit trailing. You go in weird little circles, little Cabbit trails that don't stay in one place. They eventually get to their point. He used to love it because he could have those kinds of conversations with me. Our therapist could too, and I could keep track of wherever we were, because with my ADHD, I can keep track of the 3 different stories going on at one time. Anyways, so when I was thinking about, like, you know, spirit and guides and stuff are like, no, do like love letters to Rudy, or do love letters to Cabbit, or do this and that. I had those thoughts in my mind, like, this could create a little mischief, and it might be weird, but then I thought, you know what? Everybody's advice is do what is best for me. And I'm like going, you know what? This is fun for me, just to be able to talk about whatever I want. And it's also fun for me because pirates are very literal. They don't, like, it's very black and white. They do a lot of what's called splitting. It's a psychological term. You could look it up if you want to look it up. But it's very like all or nothing. Everything or nothing. You're in or you're out. Like, there's no technicolor middle areas in there. And I mean, I used to be triggered by it and annoyed by it, but now it's really like, really? I mean, for one, you're going to be my groupies and follow me like that for so long? Like, they've tried. I'm amused. I'm amused. Like, I feel so uplifted because it's like nobody has tried so hard ever to be. It's like a combination of be me, trick me, take from me, and have what I had. I don't know. It's really weird. It's like, really, did y'all see me? It's like what me and him had and what I have going on is really that important. Like, really? I mean, I'm not even kidding. Some of these pirates and potatoes are like offended that I exist. Like it's like, don't you? Isn't that a sad world to live in? Don't you have better things to do than to be offended that I exist? I'm not even doing anything. Like people that know me, like if I was doing something, it would be done. It always is. I don't know. Maybe it's a Capricorn thing, but it is. Like if I want something, it happens. You know? And I don't know. It's just funny to me. But I say I'm getting low on battery. Why am I keeping your secret? Right, Lolita? Right? Why am I keeping your secrets? Like, it's not even about going after anybody. It's simply, why am I keeping your secrets if there's no value to it? Like, and I think, like, it's funny because a lot of them got upset on that one because they also do the same thing. There was a lot of conversations with a lot of them. They're all pretty gossipy. One of my favorite things I think about the Facebook thing was being like, the irony is I unfriended almost all of you except those that I thought might actually be good, the good guys, or at least I want to say like neutral guys or something, and gals, and yet they were all still spying. Like his main person that's been like that refuses to let him go and is draining the fuck out of him and has run his shit into the ground so much they're losing the house soon. Like she apparently has been stalking my page like the whole 22 months and probably my YouTube and stuff, and a lot of them have. It's been interesting. Like I had several friends point out to me that everyone was copying me in various different ways, like trying to learn astrology, trying to be more uplifting, and I'm not mad about it. It's just funny. Like especially like why throw me under the bus if you like what I'm doing? But they're all kind of in a place too to where I know they don't really trust genuine people because they've been hurt by a lot of people. But I'm not going to hold on to nasty secrets that weigh me down and make me feel like shit because I should have been the one to speak it up, especially because the whole reason that they like to say that they do things and keep things from me is because I seem like the kind of person who would tell, and I am. That's the fucked up thing. I should have been. There's so many fucking times I should have ratted their dirty nasty pirate asses out. I should have done it, and I didn't because of my own codependency. I didn't have faith that my DM would figure it out and come back to me and be good. So I stuck it out, and I let kids get hurt, and I let adults get hurt, and I let us get hurt, and it's like, why the fuck am I protecting you? Why am I keeping your secrets? Like for one thing, it's about me healing. For two, I mean, if I can pull the fucking rug out from under your bullshit, I want to. Like that's for me. That's fucking 100% selfish. This is not a romantic gesture. This is my shit, And like the romantic gesture was that I let him have our 10-year-old, and despite the fact that he's being incredibly immature, I am being fucking amazing about it and just talking about my feelings about it. Because I have faith that he will get that shit figured out, even though me speaking my feelings released his shadow storm of all the fucking bullshit and stuff that he's been placating, and he needs to stand up and actually be a man about and say, enough. I do not deserve to get treated this fucking way. And then on top of that, all of them need to realize they've all been doing it to each other. I can't even believe that. Like, I never asked for anyone for any information. I did ask for some help with family, with the kids. Near the end, I asked if they would go and be a presence there when my son was there because my DM had been talking suicidal again. But apparently, oh no, men can't possibly feel suicidal, and women can only possibly care about an ex, well, not even an ex, but like, we can, apparently it's only if we're jealous. We couldn't possibly be doing it. Like I have yet to have heard anyone from family or friends on his side that had anything good to say about him. They all said bad things in nice voices, and it's like, now I get it. Now I fucking get it, And that becomes the voice in your own fucking head too. And I watched it happen to him. It felt like, in fact, that original dream vision nightmare thing that I had in the early beginning is like, you're going to be drained by feminine energies. And what gets me is it turned out to be his sisters and the person he's with and his first wife. And it's like, all of them were satisfied with either blaming me or saying that he needed to do things because of me. And I get it. When you have everybody around you telling you at least similar things, even if you know they're full of shit, your brain starts to make you believe, no, maybe it's them. And they're the types too, like, there's some interesting things that happen that confirmed that basically both his first wife and his current third one are like, they do this thing that I see commonly, especially with abusive women. I'm not saying men aren't abusive and that they don't do this. I have just had more experiences with abusive women who do this, to where they will crazy make you, get you exhausted, and then get up in your face like they're going to do something physical. Like, we used to say, they come at you like a man. You know what I mean? Like, up in your face, fists, push, doing all this stuff until the man actually defends himself and pushes back or does something, and then they use that. They'll use that. They'll fucking bang on that and go, see, you hurt me. You hurt me first. You beat me. They'll push it. And then the guys at that point, a lot of men, because of the way things are now, because we've done a rubber band effect from where it was completely okay for men to do that shit to women, to where now if you even defend yourself, you're shit. And the system really doesn't fucking help anything. And then it's also shameful to be a man who is being abused by a woman in a relationship, even if she's scary as fuck. And what the way these people have done it all the time is they get you outnumbered too, so you can't even do anything about it, and they control the show, so they have everybody else corroborate the story and shit. And it's like, it's fucked up. I've watched all of them do this shit for 20 fucking years. And why am I going to keep that secret anymore? And what's funny is, because I said the shit that I said on Facebook, they actually came out and confirmed that's exactly what they fucking do. I was amazed to have the fucking confession from his first wife. I don't think she intended to give it. I think she was just so caught off guard, because I usually am the person who stays quiet and lets you throw me under the fucking bus. But it's like, you know what? If you're going to take him, put his life at risk, fuck with his relationship with our kids, and blame me for everything, why the fuck am I keeping your secrets? You know what I mean? Like, mm-mm. But if anything, a real romantic gesture to him, and I know that he needed to have spoken to his heart, is that I trust you with our youngest child. They've allowed him to, or he's allowed himself to fuck up his relationship with our oldest, but I also have faith that he's going to fix that. And you know what? That's the part where I had shadows, because, I don't pick people randomly. And I don't pick people stupidly. And I've always had a high IQ. I got tested at 10 for it. Like, I've always had a high IQ. I'm very lucid. And despite the strange language and stuff like that, I'm just very eccentric. I've been to many therapists, taken myself there, because everyone else wants to say I'm crazy. And unfortunately, all of those therapists always say I'm actually just more sane than everybody else. And a lot of people are dealing with a lot of undiagnosed mental health problems, and they're the first ones usually to tell you that you're crazy for experiencing healthy human experiences, or for being a little weird. In any case, I'm going to get off here soon because my battery's getting low on the phone. But I enjoyed those of you who came and listened, and I'm going to do more videos like these, because aside from the fact that I've kept a lot of this in, to be polite, and now that doesn't matter anymore, and it's my channel and my feelings, and I can do what I want, I'm going to do it for me because it's therapeutic. And I find that the more that I've done this in a journaling way, like, it's helped me release a lot of it. And so, a lot of the point and purpose is to get to that healing place, that processing place. And whatever happens along the way, I'm open to all outcomes. So I'm good with that. I think that's probably the most powerful thing ever, is like, it doesn't have to be one way for me. And my goal is to be better than myself. It's so funny to have everybody have been competing with me. They tried to bribe me. They tried to scare me. They literally threatened me, like beat ups, death threats, things like that, like all sorts of shit. And I never was doing anything. My only intention was not to abandon my DM as a friend. Like, and as a co-parent, like, I'm like, no, we're not going to repeat those fucking cycles just because y'all get insecure. And like, to be in this position now is like, okay, like, why not talk about it? I have no allegiances to any of them, and it doesn't affect me on the rest of it. Like, the only thing that affects anything is that is what they do to my DM and if they do anything to my kid. But at this point, it's all being very well documented and watched. So, I mean, I don't want to encourage anything to be done, but if it happens, it's not going to look good for them. Anyways, I have a lot of faith though. And that's something that he had asked for from me, and it's something that is hard for most everybody to give in this world. It's like a lot of people still live in the Isle of the Broken. I don't. I live in a world of wholeness, wholesomeness, as in like I am not broken. Other people are not broken. They think that they're broken, which is why they act like they're broken, but they're not broken. And I don't sit with that anymore. Like if you like, I'm not gonna ever be the kind of person to force someone to say that they're not broken or feel like their mental illness prevents them from stuff. But I'm certainly not going to spend. I'm not going to invest a lot of my time in people that live in that energy because it's not where I want to be. And you know what? I just really like the idea that I know that like even if Rudy, my DM, is like totally like annoyed by this right now, later he's gonna love it. He loves this shit. Like this is like eat it up kind of good shit. Especially the fact that I'm not even sitting here talking so much about him. I'm talking about me, but I'm putting it as love letters to Cabbit. Like, to use his words about a way that he bratted me early on. I bet you didn't see that coming, right? So thank you for watching, for those of you who have decided to join the mischief in this. I don't know if any part of my story... Hi, he loves it. I know, Lily. He will. You know what's funny? He's the type to come to me on his own and be like, that was romantic, but then go back to everybody else and be like, I have no idea what she's talking about, and I never know. And I'm like sitting over here going, ha. Like, anyways, I'm going to keep going if I keep getting into this. I hope I see you in the next video, Lolita. I'll check everybody later. Mwah. Be beautiful.